Welcome back to the Teacher's AI Cafe. I'm Kane, a teacher and a parent who wants AI to give us back our time. I share practical classroom-tested AI strategies to cut down your workload, improve your feedback and reduce stress so you can get your evenings back and be more present with your friends and family. No jargon, just actionable steps. Grab your mug. Now let's get going. Welcome back to this week's tech update for the 8th of June. Another week has gone by nice and quick. Not a lot of technical news coming out in the last week. So what we're going to talk about is one of the most important stories that is centered around education. It's not really about the tools, but it's about the jobs related to the tools and what do we do as educators. Now, this is based on a study by Deloitte. And Deloitte is a funny one to actually do this study because they got busted charging a government department in Australia, I think $400,000 for this AI produced report. It's pretty much all AI produced, and they got stung from another couple of places in the world from writing that. But obviously they've done a report on this. So they've described 2026 as the year AI starts to visibly reshape the Australian labour market. They call it the year of AI, even though we're already halfway through it, but that's normally for reports, isn't it? It takes a while to get out there. The headline sounds dramatic, but the detail is more useful for teachers and what we do about that, because our job is obviously to prepare our students for life after school. Deloitte is not saying every job disappears overnight. The early signal is a bit more subtle. Employment in many exposed areas is still growing, but vacancies are beginning to fall. So in plain English, people may not be losing their jobs immediately, but fewer people are actually getting a foot on the ground floor of these jobs. And I've mentioned this before, it's come up. And that matters enormously for schools. So for decades, many students have entered professions usually through junior tasks. So that's either straight through from school or university or college or graduate programs, as we call them here in Australia. I think the US they call them internships. I think the Australian ones we get paid from the beginning. I hear through the grapevine, internships, you don't get paid in the US, which is weird. Why work for someone else if they're not going to pay you for it? Anyway, I digress. Anyway, so they normally come junior tasks, basic admin, drafting, summarising, research, all the basic skills and knowledge that you actually want to build an employee, data entry, dealing with customers. They're not the glamorous jobs, but they were the learning jobs. The jobs when you came in and learned those foundational skills that you actually needed to do, then progress into the higher skilled jobs within an organisation. They were the first rung of the ladder, those entry-level jobs. And those are really important, both in a full-time and a part-time role. And I know with the automation of, say, here in Australia, of all the fast food chains where they don't have lots of checkouts, you do app ordering or you order at a digital screen, then you pick it up from the counter. You might have 4 or 5 people running McDonald's now. That's all there is actually in there. Whereas before there used to be lots of those jobs. Same with supermarkets. All those entry-level jobs that employ them people just don't exist anymore. And that's a worry. And it's now translating into that full-time area. So in many of these cases, AI does many of these tasks quickly. Sometimes it does them badly, sometimes brilliantly, but quickly enough that the business are beginning to rethink whether they actually need as many entry-level workers doing them. Now, this creates a serious challenge for us in education. We cannot simply tell students don't use AI. That may protect an assessment task in the short term, but it does not prepare our students for a workplace they are entering. At the same time, we cannot tell students just use AI for everything because that doesn't teach them the core skills they need to actually be employable. And removes the very critical thinking, empathy, building rapport, communication skills that we naturally develop as students actually go through our school systems. They should be developing as they go. The real question is, what should a graduate be able to do with AI, such as produce a first draft, summarise, spreadsheet, image, a plan or a piece of code? The answer is not less education, but it's actually deeper education. But I know in history we have the adage, we've got this massive curriculum, but the experts and the people who've been around a while said, we've got to go deeper than broader. Go really deep into the subject, develop that depth of thinking in one particular area, pretty much like doing a PhD. You know everything about one little sliver so much that you become an expert in it. So that's how we need to adjust our education system. Students need to learn how to ask better questions, judge the quality of an answer, check the evidence, understand the bias, explain their reasoning, and be able to communicate with real people. They need to know when AI is useful, when it's risky, and when a human being must remain responsible for the decision. This is where schools have a central role. Career education is no longer be limited to choosing a job title. We need to help students understand how work is changing inside the job. What does an accountant do when AI handles all the routine reconciliations? What does a designer do when AI can create 10 concepts in seconds? What does a lawyer, teacher, nurse, journalist, or an engineer do with routine knowledge work is partly automated? The students who adapt best are not necessarily the ones who press the AI button the fastest. They will be the ones who combine technical confidence with human judgment. And that's the key, that human judgment at the centre of it. That should change how we teach. Not every task needs AI, but some tasks should remain deliberately human because students need to build that mental muscle. But other tasks should include AI openly, with students required to critique, improve, and justify the final result. In other words, basically applying their knowledge. The education system now has the responsibility to teach students not just how to complete schoolwork, but how to remain valuable in a workplace where the easy parts of the knowledge work is becoming automated. The danger is not that AI makes learning irrelevant. The danger is that schools ignore AI for too long and leave students prepared for a version of work that is already disappearing. And a couple of questions I want to pose to you, and I'm not going to answer them here, that you want to think about and discuss it with your colleagues, and I'd love to get your feedback on them. So the first one, if AI removes some entry-level tasks, how do young people gain their experience that first rung on the organisation? Should schools teach AI as a separate skill or embed it across subjects? Which school tasks should remain AI-free because students need to practice the thinking themselves? How do we assess student judgment when AI can produce more polished work? Are we preparing students for job titles or the changing tasks inside those jobs? And a lot of these questions are similar to what we've had different technological changes in the past, but in some ways they're actually now more important because the way AI works is very different in the way it's going to impact our workplaces or many workplaces. So the role of education is not going to just prepare students for work, and honestly, I don't think that's never the case. We don't produce them to do a specific job. And I argue the same thing at university college level. You shouldn't be going to college to do a specific job unless it's, say, such as engineering. You should be getting a good broad experience to be able to apply that skill for lots of different areas as you travel through your career. That's why I like the idea of general degrees and specialisation. But essentially what we're doing is preparing them for a workplace that's always changing, where they're always going to still be needing to learn to either get the first position and then develop and grow themselves within those companies or that particular industry. So hopefully you found this interesting. Like I said, weekly updates are changing a little bit. We'll go back to the specific hardware updates specific software updates, not hardware, getting ahead of myself there. That becomes when AI tools and things change. But at the same time, we need to have more of a philosophical discussion of what people are now talking about across and what are our views and how do we come to a good consensus on how we actually use this technology. So until next time, keep using AI, keep experimenting. Do drop me a line if you've got any questions or something you'd like me addressed directly in my podcast. And keep up the good work and look after yourself.